Hi, in this video, I'm going to show you subsetting and sorting in R. Give you some examples so that when you're trying to manipulate or change the shape of a data, usually in the cleanup process, when you're about to do a data analysis or some kind of modeling, this is a very important step. If you're able to visualize and transform the data to the form that you want, it's a huge advantage. So I'm going to show you some of the basics here, how to think about how to subset and sort raw data that you import into R. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to start in RStudio, and I'm just going to go through a series of examples of subsetting, and there's some basic manipulations on a data frame. Okay, so let's start by creating a data frame. I'll call this data frame capital X, and I'll use the data frame command here, a function, data.frame, and I'm going to manually create 3 columns here. I'm going to call the first column var1, so short for variable 1. I'm going to use the sample command to create a vector from 1 through 5. Okay, and then I'll call var2, second variable or second column, sample for 11, 20. So values from 11 to 20. And then var3, my third variable or third column, sample 101, 105. You notice here the length of the second variable is 10 and the other 2 are 5. Okay, so when we actually run this, okay, the dimensions here are actually going to be a 10 by 3. Okay, and you notice here for variable var1 and var3, the numbers can repeat. Okay, because what sample does is generate a random number with replacement. So you're automatically generating a number from 1 through 5 at each iteration, because variable 2, the second column, is the longest. Automatically, this data frame will have 10 rows. Okay, and var1 and var3, you notice, could have repeated values. Okay, all right, so we have our data frame. I'm going to do something here where I'm going to add in some NA values. I've explained NA before in a previous video as well. When you have missing values, or a lot of times in a data frame or in a raw data, you'll have multiple columns, but you don't have an actual value in all of those columns. A lot of times they will automatically default to an NA value. So I'm going to artificially add the NA values here. So I'm going to do $$ var3. So I'm going to access variable 3 directly. Okay, and then I'm going to do sample 1 colon 10 comma 3. Okay, and let me pause it right there. So let me highlight just this portion to show you what this looks like. This is basically drawing a number from 1 through 10 3 times. Okay, so it's 7, 10, 1. Let's do it one more time. 8, 6, 9. Okay, I'm just pressing Control Enter. So I'm just creating a random value 3 times, right? That's 1 through 10. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm going to randomly select 3 rows in my data frame. Okay, and change the value of var3 from whatever it is right now to an NA value. Okay, so once I run this command, let's take a look at X. Now I have these 3 rows where there's an NA value rather than the initial numeric values I had when I created the data frame X. Okay, and this will come into play in a little bit. Okay, let me just show you a simple subsetting examples here. So subset, like as it names suggests, I'm trying to take a small portion of the larger data frame. So I'm going to subset or remove a subset of that larger set, right? So for example, and you can refer to my other video to give you a little more detail on this. The way you subset a data frame in R is simply using the bracket here. Okay, the first part is you have to specify a row and then the column on the after the comma. Okay, so if I were to do, for example, and let me comment this out, Control-Shift-C, comment this out. Okay, so if I do X bracket 1, I'm referring to the first row And since I don't provide a value here, you're telling R to select all of the columns. Okay, so if I run this, it's the entire first row. Okay, if I change this to 2, it's the entire second row. Okay, I could also not give a value for the row and then just select an individual column. If I do this, you're telling R, show me the entire second column. Okay, or return the entire second column. Okay, other ways to do this, I can do comma and spell out the name. Okay, so these two, line 7a, these two are equivalent statements. Okay, what else can I? So I can also do, if let's say I want to do multiple columns at the same time, I could do it numerically, or I can just do it this way. I could use a C function and write in var2, and then var3, and then now I have the second column and the third column output it. Okay, I could subset further and specify a specific row here. So for example, if I do 3 var3, then I'm telling R, show me the third row of the variable 3 or third column. Okay, so we should see 101 being returned here, right? So let's do that. Okay, I could also choose multiple rows. I could do 3:6 and then var3. You're telling R, I want you to return rows 3 through 6. So these 4 rows, so it should say 101, NA, NA, and 104, right? So let's try that. 101, NA, and 104. Okay, so that's how you do a simple subset. Later on, you can refer to the Dibbler package videos on how to use Dibbler package to do the subsetting. But even just using these built-in base functions, and you should be able to subset pretty easily. You can also add logicals, ands and ors to when you're subsetting. So for example, I can set up a condition such as this one, right? X, I want, let's say, the variable 1 is a value greater than equal to 7, okay? And I want variable 2 to be less than or equal to 13, for example. Okay, so I want to return all the rows where variable 1 is greater than or equal to 7 and variable 2 is less than or equal to 13. So I run that. There's none, right? So let's take a look and let's choose one that'll give me a result here. Let's change this to a 3 and see what we get. Okay, we get 1. Let me widen this a little. Yeah, I have 3 results, right? 5, 8, 9, rows 5 and 9. These 3 are the rows where variable 1 is at least 3 and variable 2 is at most 15. Okay. I could also, that's an AND statement. I can also do an OR statement. The same statement, except I can change that AND condition and logical to an OR. So that's just a vertical line. For 2, let's circle to 15. This should result in a much bigger output. Yep. So either condition, right? You're either the variable 1 is greater than or equal to 3, or variable 2 is less than or equal to 15. Okay. So that's the result. All right. So that's how you do simple subsetting using logicals and then ORs. Let me show you how you deal with the missing values. Okay. So in our original data from X, we have these NA values, right? Okay. So how do I deal with these? Okay. How do I deal with this and how do I detect these, right? Or I want to output just the rows with NA values. One way you can do that, use the is.na built-in base function, okay, and specify the row here for 3, okay. So what you're telling R to do is return all the rows where this column, variable 3, has an NA value, okay. So if I run that, so these are the 3 rows where variable 3 has an NA value, okay. Now, if I want the rows with no NA values, I want the rows that don't contain NA values. All I have to do is introduce this exclamation mark. So it's the not, right? So it's not NA. Okay. Let's run that, and this should give me all the rows where var3 is not an NA value. Okay. Let's say I want to return all the rows where there's at least one NA value in one of the columns. Okay, so not just a specific column, but any of the columns. Okay, so a good function you could use is complete.cases, and then you specify your name of data frame, and this should return all the rows where there's no NA values. Okay, and the same like if I were to put a not symbol here, exclamation point, this would then return all the rows where there's at least one NA in one of the columns. Okay, that's what we get there. All right, so simple subsetting and simple subsetting with logicals and simple subsetting and dealing with the missing values or NA values. Okay, let me show you how to sort a data frame based on one of these columns. So some of the built-in functions you can use is the sort function. Okay, and you got to give it a column. So I'm going to sort my data frame X based on variable 1 here. Okay, so I'm sorting X based on, so if I sort var1, it's going to go in ascending order. Okay, if I want to do if I want to do in a descending order, I can do the same command, but then I have to specify decreasing is equal to true. So by default it's false, so it's in ascending order. If it's decreasing to true, okay, that means it's in descending order, right? By default it's in ascending order. When you said decreasing to true, then it's in descending order, okay, from largest to smallest. Okay, let's see what happens if I do a sort on a column with NA values. Okay, so it'll sort, but you noticed it leaves out all of the NA values. Okay, so I can treat it the same way as before, but it'll basically ignore the NA values unless you tell or to do not ignore the NA values. Okay, so how do we do that? var3 is the one with the NA values. You specify NA.last equals to true. Okay, if you do this, the NA values would just be appended at the end. Okay, and if you set this to false, okay, it'll be at the front. Okay, so this now retains those NA values. Okay, so then let's see, how do we then use this sort so that we can reorder the entire data frame, not just a column, but the entire data frame. Okay, you do exactly what just above, but you use an order command, and then you do a reference to using brackets like you did when we did subsetting. Okay, so X, okay, brackets, and again, the comma separates rows and columns. So you want to rearrange this, the rows, right? The observations, it's going to come before the first, the expression is going to come before the comma. You're going to use the order function. Okay, you're going to order this data frame based on variable 1. If I run this, then my data frame now is ordered in increasing order, right? Okay, so let's say if I repeat this now with a copy and paste, not variable 1, variable 2. Now I rearrange my data frame where it's in ascending order based on variable 2. And then if I repeat this for variable 3, this is in ascending order again based on variable 3. Okay, you can also do this ordering based on multiple columns. I can do comma x $sum var 3. Then what it'll do is it'll rearrange the rows based on variable 1, and then it'll do it if there's any ties. It'll break the ties based on variable 3. Okay, so here, the ties were really only when, so for example, both cases where variable 1 is 1 or 2, the values for variable 3 were the same. It didn't really show up there, but when variable 1 is 3, the value for variable 3 is 101 and NA. Okay, so you're reordering based on variable 3 now. So by default, the actual numerical value will show up first, and then the NA or the missing value will come out second. Okay, so that's how you rearrange, how you sort data frame or a column. Okay, let's continue here. I'll give you a couple more examples. Some basic common tasks you're going to have to do with data frames in R. Another simple one is adding rows and columns to my data frame. Okay, this is very easy to do. Probably the easiest way to do it is just write out your name of your data frame and then use the dollar symbol. Okay, right now if you have an option to select one of the existing columns, I can create a new variable by just writing it out. Okay, variable 4. Okay, and then I could set up some expression. I could set this to 0, for example. Okay, then now I have a column of zeros for variable 4. Okay, let's set up something a little more complicated though. Let's do a sample 30, 35, 10, replace. Oops. So what am I doing here? For column variable 4, for var4, pick a number from 30 to 35, each with equal probability. Do this 10 times because there are 10 rows in the data frame X. Okay, replace true means the numbers are replaced when there's a draw. So you can pick the same number. The same numbers could be picked again and again. Okay, because you're doing a replacement. If you do replacement by false, that means that you basically will only have 6 numbers to go into these 10 slots. So it wouldn't work, right? So let's run this and look at X. So now I have my new column var4, variable 4. It's got these values over here. Okay. Another way of doing this is using the cbind command. Okay. So cbind. Okay. And then your existing data frame, and then you could also then add in another column by same as above. Okay, just your expression. Let me show you what this looks like, and then I'll actually store it into variable. Okay, so I'm going to highlight this portion here. This should just be a number of list of 10 or vector of 10. If I run this, you see now I have this 5th variable or 5th column. Okay, I'd have to rename this title here, but this tells this is the 5th variable that I'm adding. Okay, let me store this in a variable called y. And y now looks like this. Okay, if I want to rename these columns, I can do column names y, and then this. I can specify which one I want to change. It's the last one, the 5th one. I'll change this to var 5. Okay, and I could read this out again, and I have my 5 variables. Okay, so hopefully this is helpful. This is a very simple way of subsetting and just kind of working with these data frames. Probably when you're cleaning up data or just getting started on like initial data exploration. Okay, so hopefully this is helpful. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.